What's up, Swing Trader Snacks here. We're going to jump in and do our watch list for Wednesday, September 8th. Quick look here at market breadth. Still hanging out at all-time highs. Going a little bit sideways. So, whereas when we get a bit extended, I tend to look for maybe a little bit of a dip, but sideways consolidation is a good look as well, right? If we start to push higher and clear what is beginning to become a bit of a range here in the market, then that would be a good look where I'd be willing to do some positioning. So small range, but if we break below it, then certainly wait for that dip to find a bottom, right? Cease positioning, step in and get us back onto trend. Or if we break out, guys, I think you got to swing the bat, okay? And then we've got RSP here, which is still hanging out right around that prior all-time high breakout level or the top of range, right? Broke out of the range, pull back, retest, and if we can get back out of it to the upside, great look there. I really like breakouts, pullbacks, retests to show strength. Okay, and then we've got Qs, same thing as the SPY, sort of going sideways, and IWM hanging out at the breakout level. I'd love to see this get some legs and start to push back up higher. And crypto is still holding up. Okay, so no major concern. We do have a government shutdown, still in maybe a headline sensitive environment, but I would say things are pretty stable. So look, you got to swing the bat. All right, we've got a pretty short list. A lot of our focus list triggered last week. You should really be in profits, managing positions, or looking to take profits here soon in most of them, but there are still some setting up. We've got RBLX, which we're looking for a gap down reversal trigger on. I think back over, you could do the entry at the gap down reversal play, right? So you get a gap down on news or earnings, typically an overreaction if they can hold it up without really breaking structure, which we've not done. We've not made a lower low, right? So we're still holding structure. If we can breach the gap down high right here at 127.50 area and also be at that point pretty much remounting the moving averages, giving us a triple R setup, and we've got an IPO cycle here, really kind of a lot setting up here. If they can get it back onto trend on RBLX, I do like it. And we've got CVNA, one we've sort of been looking at. It's sort of going sideways, basing right at all-time highs, back over this green line, prior all-time highs, and the 9 EMA reacting off of the 50, holding structure. Would be a good look. Also on Carvana, CRDO, I like this. This has finally given us our pullback to the 50. So if this is one of your first times here, you know that I like to trade the leaders in a trend backed by growing fundamentals. My bread and butter setup is the triple R setup, where you've got a strong company in a trend backed by growing fundamentals, and you get a retracement reaction. Let's look at one of the last ones. Retracement reaction at around the level and a remount of the short-term moving average. I use the 9 EMA is our trigger for triple R. So I do like this one, even back over the 9 now. I was waiting, had it triggered yesterday. I was saying let's let it clear range, but now that we've pulled back, tested the 50, if we get a reaction off of the 50 and get back over the 9, so basically yesterday's highs, I think would be, you gotta swing that bat, right? This is one of the strongest fundamental growth companies in the market. I think top 3. Okay, their revenue growth is significant. So guys, if this is looked at as a positioning opportunity, if it goes on sale, retracement goes on sale, if they step in and reaction, position and get it back onto trend, remount, then look, bread and butter. Textbook triple R possible trigger here on CRDO, which I will be watching today. I would be certainly willing to take it. And then we've got net, another one sort of like Carvana, hanging out, going sideways at highs. I think clearing range here on net would put us over prior all-time highs, this green line, and then clearing that range looks really nice to me on net. NFLX is another one that we got. I wouldn't really say gap downs. I mean, well, it did sort of gap down, but really it went on sale. Okay, one of the, again, a revenue leader. It's a leader in the market, guys. Okay, and we've pulled back into the 200 basically. Back over the 50. I think it's attractive, and I think we could certainly hit top of range, and maybe even if you want to hold it a little bit longer. What do we have? Mid-October. I think maybe with that timeline, you're looking at top of range, which should still be a 2R. Let's take a quick look at it here. Long position. And I would say give it somewhere about there. Yeah. Okay. Not so attractive. Just because we've got earnings. This is one that we could wait for the earnings, see what they say about this whole boycotting of Netflix, right? Was it a non-event, or did they actually, do not hold, I mean, I never do, but do not hold Netflix into earnings. Who knows what they're going to have to do as far as guidance coming off of what just happened with the whole boycott Netflix thing. And then Reddit is another one that is a leader, right? And they had some negative news, something about the OpenAI users or search from Reddit was down or going to be down. It was a news event, right? Gave us a gap down and a positioning opportunity. So again, do they keep it from breaking structure? I would say that it sort of did here break structure, but it's holding up right at that level. So an invalidation or a quick reversal of that and breaching that gap down high would be about 218.50, and then getting back over the 50 if you want to play it safe. I think that's a good look on Reddit, one that can really run when it gets some legs. And then Circle, bullish, and Gemini. Okay, I want to look at a little narrative trade here. Last one I talked about was robotics, which has done very well. Hey traders, if you're struggling to find consistent profitability, then you need a coach or a mentor. The markets are just far too brutal of a teacher. I'm up over 170% on the year and on track to do well over 200, so triple the portfolio this year, 2025. So if you want to stop spinning tires and you're looking for someone to lean over your shoulder and teach you a model that works, but more importantly than making money, I'm going to teach you how to keep it and compound it through proper risk management. I'd love to have you join me. I'm going to give you an edge you can leverage for the rest of your life. See you there. 5 out of 6 of my models are continuation plays on the leaders, but my 6th model is a narrative trade. And what I really like to do is trade these things coming out of a changing character. So a rounding bottom or a basing pattern, right? They had a push, they sell off for a while, and then they start to round, change character, start making higher highs, lower lows, right? And if there's a narrative backing it, which I do believe that crypto is quite the narrative right now, then it can really be a very strong entry. So a few of these that I'd like to look at, one is Circle. All right, so you've got the changing character happening right now and remount. I mean, this is absolutely beautiful, right? And we had the changing character pulled back, held that trend line, and it's now pushing over the 50. I think clearing range here on Circle is a great trade, and you've got such a clean risk reward here, right? So if you go 157 area as your entry, and I don't see why you wouldn't just have the just below moving averages, maybe even have this strong accumulation candle be your defense candle. So you could even pull it down to here. I think you could, what do we have, late November? Yeah, certainly target a bit larger of a move here. If you want to tighten that up, right, that's fine to moving averages. But I like where I had it there. That looks good to me, right? If they breach this accumulation candle, then it's a broken setup, right? It's just not ready yet. But I like this trade, right? Quite a bit of room. Look, you're looking at over 60 points there, or over 50 points. That could be a nice trade for you. And it's a changing character narrative play. I like it. I'd like to see a little bit more accumulation, to be completely honest. So usually my narrative plays, so like, what is one that we called recently? So robotics, just a lot of accumulation on the chart, right? Since it's had its change in character. Okay, change in character right here, and look at that accumulation leading into the move. So anyways, let's go to what we're focusing on. So Circle would be one. Bullish is another one that has a similar look. All right, this is sort of a rounding bottom, a basing pattern on a recent IPO. I think clearing through this range right here is a good look. Maybe the 70 area. You could even look at just clearing recent highs, so 69.20. I think clearing this range right here, for me, it's worth a swing, okay? And ideally looking for a bigger play. And the way that you can do this, you could do contracts if you would like, or it is a good way to position, okay, into a longer term thesis. So you could just do shares, right? And maybe DCAN, dollar cost average, into the position, but make sure it holds structure, okay? If you're wrong, don't look at it as being wrong. If you're early, whatever it is, just respect the structure, okay? Don't think, oh, this doesn't have to do anything, okay? It could roll over again for years, okay? And I've seen that happen, right? But if it does break out, I think it's worth a swing, but do make sure that you're respecting structure. And this one, what I like here would be a breakout of that trend line and then, recent swing low, okay? And then target what you would like here. I want at least 2 to 1, okay? But I think I like shares better on this one myself. And then we've got Gemini is the other one. Another recent IPO, maybe finding bottom here. I think letting it clear this little range there is a trigger, okay? For me, that's a trigger. You got to swing the bat and then give another one I would probably just do shares on, okay? And, target your 2 to 1 off of that. So an idea there for you guys for a narrative play. I think it's a hot sector, right? Crypto, they just announced the, what do they call it? The Digital Assets 50 by S&P. They just announced that fund or ETF, right? Pretty interesting stuff, and all of these will be included into it. I believe it was the top 15 market cap cryptos and then 35 crypto stocks. So I like it. I like the idea. These things are rounding. It's, you swing the bat, guys. These things work more often than not when they do trigger, right? It's either going to go, or if it breaks structure, get out. But if it goes, the risk reward is certainly in your favor. And I think it's a hot sector. I think it's a good narrative. A good time for positioning, okay, going into end of year. I think there's still some legislation coming out in the States for crypto, favorable legislation. So, guys, I think it's a good idea for a narrative exposure, right? Still same thing, respect your risk profile. I don't put more than a tenth into any of these, a tenth of my portfolio. So a single unit, right? Still respect the risk profile, but sometimes you can get a bigger move out of these narrative plays and hold on to them longer. So either do leaps or do shares, up to you guys on how you'd like to handle that. And then honestly, this is also one of those things for people looking for positioning. It's like, if this is the time where crypto is going to go, I don't know, right? Things look good, but if this is the time that crypto is going to, enter a prolonged bull market, a super cycle, whatever it may be, then you're scooping these things up here pretty early, and it could be a really nice entry for a long-term position that you could then dollar cost average up, which I prefer to do. I like to average up into winners as opposed to average down into losers. That can get sketchy pretty fast. But anyways, all I'm saying is that if you have a longer-term thesis or idea, I'm talking like 5, 10, 20 years, this could be a good opportunity to take a swing, see if you get a good entry. If it holds structure, you've got a great starter on something that you could lean into for a long time, and it become a really great position in your portfolio. So guys, that's it. Stay safe, manage your risks. Let's go make some money. I'll see you soon.